joining us. The first item of business is open forum. And according to the sheet, we don't have anybody who would like to comment this morning. And then on confirmation of agenda, Barbara?
Through the chair, I would like to ask Council's indulgence to waive the procedural bylaw 22.2 regarding notice in order to introduce the notice of motion and address the notice of motion to be brought forward by Mayor Fosbrook on behalf of the CAO Review Working Committee. So I move we waive procedure 22.2 in order to address the notice of motion that wasn't on the agenda previously.
Thank you, Barbara. So moved. Second. Maxine was second. And would anybody like to discuss that? All those in favor? Thank you, carried. Barbara?
So through the chair, I would like to move the approval of the agenda as amended to include the notice of motion regarding the CAO Review Working Committee product.
Thank you, Barbara. So moved. Second. Thank you, John. Any discussion? All those in favor? Carried. So now we have looking for a confirmation of the agenda as amended. Okay. Okay, so declaration of pecuniary interest. Seeing none, we all know we can declare at any time, and that brings us to delegation presentations. And we have Mr. Glenn Norman, who is going to address the topic of the Cedarville Community Center. So thank you for joining us. You have the floor, sir.
You turn this on, or hello? Press the button. There we go. Hello, everybody. Thank you very, very much. I'm sorry, right off the top, I'm running on 2 hours leave. Barely away
So
here.
John.
Good. We'll communicate. Great.
Okay, that's wonderful, and I know I've got my stopwatch going. Okay. First of all, I would sincerely like to thank this council because you've been so patient and you've been so good in giving us extra time to try and make things happen. We've not been able to make things happen. Got something that what we had hoped to attain didn't happen. But in all sincerity to all of you, thank you because you've been so good with us, extending, and thank you. I have no complaints at all with the way we've been treated. Okay, so after numerous attempts to acquire several properties, Hydro One finally informed CCCC, Cedarville Committee, okay, overseas, that they were unable to rent the so-called Hydro House to us. We had a huge presentation as we'd gone to them to try to buy the place on the South Gate in exchange for tax lip, but that never happened. The problem, I think, was that it was addressed from the bottom up, we were going to get from the top down. After that happened, we made several more attempts to try to get back in touch with Hydro to get to somebody at the top. Couldn't do it, just couldn't do it. So, we're primarily looking for an I'm sorry. Okay, the problem basically is there is a noticeable difference in Cedarville now that we don't have a place where we can meet. It's been years. Also, there's been a big turnover in Cedarville. Half of the people who moved into town, we don't know them, they don't know us. And in a small place in the country, it's important to have somewhere to meet. I know in the past, options like Slint Park, Holstein, Hopeville, so on, have been suggested as alternatives. The reality, the absolute reality, especially in the wintertime, because we're primarily talking about a spring picnic and maybe 6 nights, or a total of 6 nights, probably 5 nights a year. We had games night, which we found worked very well to help with people who get a cabin fever, because at least it's an opportunity for people to all get together, and that way people get to know each other, and really does bring the village together. Hamlet, sorry, I get in trouble calling it a village. So what we've been looking for is, although yes, we understand the ones that are there, whatever event we came up with, people won't go there. They just, especially in the winter, they're not going to make that trip. So one of the things that we've been looking into is Camp Pincairn, which is the camp for autistic kids. And by the way, Michelle and I have done a lot of volunteer work there. Neither one of us received a cent. It's to help the autistic kids, and they're wonderful. And they do great work over there. So I talked to Howard Dalal, who is the guy who owns and operates it, and asked him if there would be a possibility that from Southgate or Cedarville, we could manage to rent the facility possibly 6 times a year. Now, the only problem is that, of course, they do have their program, which is going on right now. It's really about 6 weeks in the middle of summer. We're not looking at anything there anyway. We're looking for something in spring before they begin. We're looking at things in the winter when they're not using it. As far as Howard is concerned, he said they were perfectly welcome to use the facilities. You must have approved them because they're running, so the inspections must have been made and so on and so forth. And all we're talking about, as I say, is a spring picnic, which, given the fact that the camp has all of those extra facilities, is much better. It's better for the kids. There's more things that they can do and so on and so forth. It's a large area. The main thing is the main dining hall, which has a complete kitchen, gourmet kitchen, the whole bit set up. That would all be included in it. We kicked around prices, and what he came up with was, he said, well, you know, if it's $100, it's yours, basically. Now, that is the price that Abner had quoted after everything had happened. The problem, just to remind you, that we couldn't do a deal with Abner, this as well, because it's school now, it's in-use school. But the problem was that we couldn't have a Sunday, because of the Mennonite factor, we couldn't have Sunday as a rain day. And that was just too limiting on things such as a spring picnic. You have to be able to have a rain day. In regards to Camp Figueroa, fine, no problem. We can have rain days. Things don't work out. There was a blizzard this week, do it next week. Some stuff like that. A lot easier to be able to deal with that. Okie dokie. Let me see, let me make sure I'm not missing anything here. No. Now, some of the other members of the committee were concerned about the $50,000 in disbursement of it, and as to where it goes and all the rest of that. I said if people wanted to come and talk to you about it, I'd step aside, but my friend Brian is here, it's like it's me at this moment. I'm not really going to get into that, to be perfectly honest with you, because my understanding is it belongs to Southgate anyway. And so if you can disperse it in some way so that there is some sort of benefit for the area that the people are in, I think that will go a long way towards keeping the people of the citizens of Cedarville, especially the ones happy. Insofar as what the costs would be, we're basically talking about $600 a year to rent the facility, and that's Howard would be happy to if you need a lease or something like that. I have managed to talk to a few counselors who contacted me and replied, and both a 3-year or a 2-year has been suggested. I'm fine with 3 years and see how it goes. You know, and if you have any problems at that point, fine. But I don't think we will. And on top of which, I must add, yes, this is solving our problem, but it's also going to really cause, because the stuff they're doing is just a sight of miraculous. And they're changing lives, and the eyes of the world are starting to move onto that. I'm not exaggerating. The eyes of the world are starting to go onto that place, and I know some of the stuff that's coming, and there's going to be more and more attention paid to this place because changes are being made. They're finding breakthrough techniques to reach autistic kids that there was no way they could be reached before, and all of a sudden these non-verbal kids have suddenly managed to communicate. And so 2 hours sleep, guys. Seeing some of the parents' reactions when they see their kids talking to them or excited, it blows you away. And also we're discovering that some of the kids are so smart, and literally geniuses, but they can't communicate. But Howard is amazing. I'm doing that for them now. I'm sorry. What I'm trying to say is that by using the camp, it really is a win-win situation, and certainly something I think Southgate Township should be proud of. Okay, about 7 minutes, so I'll shut up and questions.
Barbara? Thank you, Liz.
Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn, and through the chair. I've been giving it some thought, and $600 a year, it really is a donation to the good works of the autism camp, and they are a not-for-profit charitable organization.
I'm honestly not sure. I honestly don't know. We just go there and do stuff.
No, so that's something that we could look into, because, you know, a win would be you get to use the for a facility of some kind in or near Cedarville, and that just isn't going to happen. And I would support staff figuring out how best to make that work. I know that we have the Hillside Academy in Swinton Park gets a break on, they have a lump sum payment for the year, they pay, and then they have a discount. We discount youth. Optimist has a proposal coming forward, and I think that $600 a year wouldn't be a bad spend.
Especially with $50,000 that we were hoping was going to be gone from the coffers, is now not gone from the coffers and goes into your coffers. So from my point of view, especially if I talk to the residents of Cedarville, it's a pretty minimal request in exchange.
And if it is a charitable organization and that were a contribution, then the township would get a tax receipt as well. So I mean,
I can't guarantee that because I honestly,
no,
I don't know.
That's okay. I'm just kind of throwing out ideas.
Okay.
John?
Thank you. You guys have worked hard on it. I think on the surface, and we'll have to work it out, it sounds like a win-win all around. And I think a facility like that, the more they're integrated with the community, the better it is for them and for the community.
I agree completely.
I think one of the things that we're lacking in Southgate compared to what we had, and you can always compare things to years ago, but the community spirit is not as strong. We're seeing a reduction in service groups and things like that. And I think, again, have to look into it and work it out.
Yes.
But on the surface, it looks like something that again, would have the community spirit going again, would be beneficial all around. So,
thank you for your comments. It genuinely is true. It's not just I'm here trying to pitch for it.
Yeah.
It genuinely is true that the feel in Cedarville has changed, and especially as new people have come in, and in many cases they're coming from the city or what have you. So it's a different type of lifestyle out in the country. And what we found was that when we did have those various events, man, did it put community together. We all got to know it's not sticking your nose in your neighbor's business. It's just we all got to know each other, and we could social. I mean, Brian was mentioning that earlier. It's the fact of having a place where you can socialize. Because right now it's no frills. I mean, people stop in the aisle with no frills, and that's where people meet. You know, and during the summer down at Ice Cream at Misty Meadows. I mean, but you can see in those situations that there's need for people to be able to communicate with each other and discuss things that affect all of us. That's surprising when I stop talking to them.
Where we're just like...
Yeah, I know. Our people said it's like going forward. Yeah.
Any additional questions, comments for council? Jim?
Sir.
Glenn, do you intend to use this place during winter?
Yes.
Where's the distance from the road almost to the structure where you've been holding your meetings?
I know what your sub-question is. You're asking, is it blown out? The answer to that is yes. Neighbor Hank, I'm sorry, I believe he owns a lot of property in the area. He's the guy that's been coming in. He looks after the laneway. I do know, because I measured it. We're going to have a solar system, 1,200 feet. It's 1,200 feet.
Distance doesn't really matter as long as there's somebody there to get it cleaned out for you.
Yes, because that is, or it has to be because Howard's family lives there. There's a cabin that's now been converted into a home, so his wife and his kids live there. He has to go to the city each day to work, and he can manage to come back out on the weekends. But his family is there, and it's got to be cleaned all the time.
Good, thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Additional questions, comments? Well, on behalf of everybody, I thank you very much for taking time, and all, did Dale have his hand up?
Sorry.
Apologies, go ahead, Dale.
First of all, Glenn and Brian, I'd like to thank you for coming with the presentation. I think maybe you've set a trend that we talk about community spirit and the community doing something for the community. I think you've set something that's a pretty rich example here when you take that you had $50,000, and for a while you were trying to do, something to come up with a meeting place, but you've, been man enough to admit now that you can't take and make it happen, which is, I commend you for that. Like, because it makes our day as council a lot easier to deal with, the proposal that you come here today. Plus, it's a win-win situation for more than just your group, another group, and I commend you on the situation you come in with and how you've done it, because it's, that is community spirit. And that is the people, working with the people in the neighborhood, and I just think it's just a tremendous idea. I compliment you on it.
2 hours sleep, careful, you get me here.
Well, I know
Thank you very much, I appreciate yours. I also would like to point out, although she's here today, Glenda Kuntz was the woman who did the bulk of the work when it came to doing the paperwork, preparing for all the various things over the years. It's been Glenda, and I very much want to stress that it would have been very different. I am not for a second saying that the rest of the committee didn't also, they did, but Glenda did a huge amount of work, and I would really like to share your thanks with her, because she did a lot,
Barbara?
Through the chair, we didn't actually move the resolution to, did we? No. So, when we get, I would like to propose a different motion,
Okay,
rather than an amendment, since we haven't got a motion on the table, I could just.
so, seeing no other questions or comments, Barbara, if you would like to bring a motion?
Yes, I'd like to make the motion, be it resolved, the council receives Cedarville Community Center committee delegation as information, and the council directs staff to bring a report to council on how best to support the rental of the proposed facility for use by Cedarville and surrounding area. And if I may ask the CAO, what would be reasonable time frame? They don't need it till the winter, so we've got some time, and I don't want to rush this through.
I don't want to rush you up.
If somebody can contact me from their group, give me the contact information, and we, 30 to 45 days easy.
So by September
Yeah.
19th?
Yeah, easy.
Do you want to read that again, to me, Barb?
Yes, well, I just wrote it down. So by September 20th is our second meeting, our date meeting,
What, I'm sorry, was that Dan?
September 20th.
Okay.
So, receive for information, and the council directs staff to bring a report to council on how best to support the rental of the proposed facility, because I'm not sure exactly the name of the camp,
I can give it if you want.
for use,
Okay, it's camp,
no,
just
okay.
don't forget it, okay.
The private facility, the proposed private facility for use by Cedarville and surrounding area by September 20th, 2017. And if I'm thinking that since the CAO had adjusted that, we can't really direct the group, somebody will contact the CAO.
That's fine, just let us know, yeah.
So,
As long as my car is still on, I'll be good.
And you've had 2 hours sleep at least.
because just to clarify, it's not just the Cedarville residents,
No.
it's Cedarville and the
Yeah, and the community in and around, it seemed to have its own kind of natural flows. I mean, every spring we would see
Okay.
people nearby.
Can we move the by September 20th, 2017 council meeting to bring a report by the September 20th on how best? Because it kind of sounds like we want you to use it by September 20th.
On how best to use it?
No,
Sorry, you want?
if you move by September 20th council meeting to after bring a report to council by, and then take it out at the end, and then that, I think that's my motion.
I just realized you're all looking at screens and
Well, it's there.
Yeah.
Thank
Okay,
you.
so moved, and Christine, second, and discussion further? Okay, seeing no further discussion, all those in favor? Carried. And now I take the opportunity to thank you very much.
Much better.
We appreciate your effort.
In all sincerity to all of you. Thank you.
No, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so next on the business is adoption of minutes. Be it resolved. That council approved minutes from the February 22nd, 2017 Committee of the Whole meeting, June 21st, 2017 council meeting, July 5th, 2017 council meeting, and closed session meeting as presented. Who would like to move that? Christine? And Barbara? Discussion? All those in favor? Carried. Reports of municipal officers. For me, Barbara?
Through the chair and with the understanding of council, because we're not sure how long Councillor Woodbury can stay, I would propose that we move up the notice of motion that to be presented by Mayor Fosbrook on behalf of the CAO Review Working Committee and address it now.
Okay, so moved. And Christine, you will second. And any discussion on that motion? All those in favor? Carried. So in order for me to do this, somebody needs to,
John or I.
yeah,
Christine has her hand up.
okay.
Because we're on a working committee.
So I'm moving, I'm gonna read this, and I think the clerk's able to bring it up on the screen for us.
Yeah.
Thank you. There we go. Okay, so, whereas Mayor Fosbury, Councillor Dobrini, Councillor Woodbury have met as a working group on May 15th, July 10th, July 17th to review the submissions for the CAO review process 2016. And whereas members of the working group have indicated that there are a number of concerns with regards to the CAO review process for 2016. And whereas members of the working group have discussed the opportunity for members of council as a whole to determine if there should be a change to the next steps in the CAO review process for 2016. Therefore, be it resolved that council suspend the CAO review process for 2016 until the clerk can provide an updated report to council at the August 2nd, 2017 closed session.
Okay, so who's moving this?
So that I
You
moved.
moved it,
Yeah.
and our second, discussion. Through the chair, this really is a process, and just to clarify that it's the 2017 review process of the 2016 period. I had to reread that as well, and it really is an opportunity for us to discuss it with council, because council approved the process. It's not us to change the timeline. As well, we couldn't get it on the agenda because we felt that we weren't giving adequate and transparent notice. So this is something that we would like permission to suspend the timeline so that we can have a discussion at council in closed session.
I'm just going to quickly add that I appreciate Barbara mentioning that it is about process, and I think that we all agree that it's, a very important process, and we just want to make sure that we get it right.
All right, so any more discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Thank you very much. John?
Sorry, just before we go on to the next one, I am gonna have to leave. It's, my wife's down in Toronto now. They're hoping to do the transplant for her by tomorrow. Things have got critical. So I'm gonna have to leave now. So,
Thank
Good luck, John.
Yep.
And good luck, Linda.
I'll send a message.
Okay, so now that brings us to the reports of municipal officers. So the first report is, the 2017 June financial report. Be it resolved that council receive staff report finance 2017-041, 2017 financial report June as information. Who would like to move it? Dale? Barbara? Discussion? Christine?
I have a couple of questions about, I beg your pardon. I have one question. Are there any highlights you would like to bring to us? Is there anything that you think we should pay particular attention to, any highlights?
No, the report is fairly standard, there's nothing really significant in there. At this time, in 6 months, it's just mostly timing variances for the most part, so a lot of the surplus is because of the fact that capital spending hasn't occurred. Other than that, there's nothing really unusual in the financials to the point.
Thank you, Liam. Any additional questions, comments? So, I just made one observation, and that was in relation to water on page 7 of 9. And it talks about other operational expenses. So is that unanticipated, unbudgeted? And what was that for?
The other operational expenses, that's really all other lines within water, like they might be each down by 1,000 or 2,000 on an individual line basis, but just collectively, they add up to about $20,000. So there's really nothing significant in that area. However, collectively, $20,000 is a relatively significant number for that department, but on a line-by-line basis, it's not. So it's just normal timing for the most part for a lot of the expenses. Some expenses haven't occurred yet, or they've been shifted to other areas.
Okay, so it is in relation to budgeted expense, it's just, we bunched it together.
Yeah, it's just for the budget expense.
Okay.
Basically, the budget basically spreads out spending like 1/12 a month, but that's not how spending actually happens.
Thank you. Any additional questions, comments? All those in favor? Carried. That brings us to fees and charges. Be resolved that the council receives staff report finance 2017-042 fees and charges of information, and that bylaw, I probably want to make sure I get did we update the resolution on this? I'm going to go to the amended just to make sure. So that receives information and that bylaw 2017-086 being a bylaw to amend schedules A, B, C, D, E, G, I, L, M, and N of bylaw 2017-044, which established fees and charges for certain services provided by the Township of Southgate, be considered for first and second reading on July 19, 2017, and be considered for approval on August 2nd. And who would like to do that? Barbara? Thank you, Christine. Discussion. Christine on Monday.
Okay, so I have, I would like to see the unassigned book that we haven't done that, as far as I know. Fines to deter those who would contravene the bylaw, and the cost cut to be reasonable for those who are following our canine bylaw. And the, page 12 of 24 talks about custom work. And I'm wondering when we would do this, when would we do custom work, and have we been doing that sort of thing? It's at the bottom, highlighted, of course, it's just slightly increased. Do subcontracts fall into this category? And I was concerned also about insurance, so that's one very large question. So how often does this custom work happen? Do we include subcontractors in this, and insurance coverage? Thank you.
So, as long as I can recollect, and I imagine previously, there's always been charges in there if there was township equipment used or manpower for other outside activities. Occasionally, somebody will request that their laneway or parking lot or something have, some grading work done, which, there's not a whole lot of graders around, the municipality, so when we work it into our schedule occasionally, it's not very often, but there's a couple of times a year, one or two people may ask, so we have rates to go to, we carry out those duties and charge them. We include most of our equipment in there just in case there's a request, but it's not very often that we do, custom work. We do not really do trucking for people, they can find out other resources to do that, but it's just, the odd time that there's something and, we participate in, we have it scheduled to go to.
Thank you, Jim. I think, Dale, did you want to comment, and then we'll go to Barbara?
My question got answered, with Christine and Jim's questions
Okay.
and answers, other than on them custom work charges that's related to when you take a look at them. If you get into the real world, which is a good place to compare to, our charges are higher than what you can hire from for private contractors, so we're not encouraging that type of stuff. If you take a look at the rates, which is a good thing.
I believe Barbara and then Jim, I'm not sure. Did you have your hand, Barbara?
I did. I
Okay.
think Jim had his hand up.
Okay, so we'll go Jim and then Barbara.
Particular matter that we're discussing is a requirement of municipal act. Municipalities must have all equipment available to the public at a reasonable rate.
Thank you, Jim. Barbara?
Through the chair, and to the points that have been made, this is not something new to our fees and charges. It's just an update to the charges, and it wouldn't apply to subcontractors because they would have their own charges. This is for our employees, our equipment, being farmed out, and in that case, to Councillor Gordon's question about insurance, it would be covered. So I just wanted to clarify that subcontractors don't play into this at all.
Thank you, Barbara. Any additional questions, comments? Jim?
Liam, the schedule you have here, the one in particular, Schedule M, could you explain that, please?
Schedule M is the wastewater charges, so never, is there a specific line you want me to address, or just wastewater in general?
How this came about? You mentioned here the, increase in all water meter charges to recover the cost. Is this a surcharge on the amount of water used that determines how much the surcharge will be?
Okay, so you're talking about the usage charge section?
Yes,
Or
yeah.
monthly flat rate charge for non-metered customers, that section?
Yes, Schedule M. Discontinue the monthly flat rate,
Right.
use charge, since all water, wastewater customers now have a water meter. How
Yeah.
do you determine what charge to get in there for the water meter?
The rate, the water and wastewater rates are determined based on the usage, the rate study that was, I think it was 2011, when the last time that was done. So at that time, there was a customer that who basically wasn't on water meters, so didn't have water meters, they had a flat rate, whereas as of today, I think as of this year, I believe, the last customer that actually didn't have a water meter was taken off. So that's why we're basically eliminating that rate. So the usage rates are in a separate water and wastewater bylaw. And that's why, 2011, so that's why we added that reference on there.
But is the usage rate based on a surcharge on the amount of water used through the meter? If you've got a high consumer, 10,000 cubic meters per year, another meter that's only consuming 1,000 cubic meters per year, the surcharge on those meters should be different.
There's
rather than a
yeah.
single rate.
Yeah, there's a base charge as well as volumetric charge.
So there is a,
There is a volumetric
which is a
charge.
surcharge on the usage.
Yeah, so if you have a customer who's metered and uses nothing, they're still gonna get charged $20 a month, or whatever that base charge is.
Good, thank you.
Dale?
When we're at that section, Jim or Liam, if you service connections charges and you're taking, so a connection charge has been 22 and a quarter and went to 27. Street frontage charges from 75 a meter and went to $180 a meter, and then development charges underneath CDC bylaw. So when you take and look at street frontage charge and connection charges in the new subdivisions, nothing to do at all with connection street frontage charges, it all gets covered under the development charges, or what is there, is this a fee increase for hooking up a new house there's 700 homes coming over 10-year period, whatever length of time it is. Is these the new charges that each house is gonna have to pay that went from 75 to $180 a meter, from 22 and a quarter to 27? Is that, or am I reading this wrong?
Crack at the answer, and if I'm wrong, you can correct me. What this charge is at one time, we installed the wastewater system along a road, and somebody didn't connect to that system, so we had a capital cost at the time, at which the resident didn't pay for because they weren't connected to the system. So this charge would get charged to them if and when they do connect to the existing system. In a new subdivision, the developer installs the system and presumably covers that cost by selling property to the homeowner. So this charge would not be incurred to the people, and they wouldn't have to pay this charge.
Okay, so you explained what the new developer then is paying for all the hookup costs, and he has to root that out of the benefit. We have no expense connected with it at all then, other than having the pipe at the road. Everything else is the builder's problem of recouping his costs by selling the house. It's only if you had a person that's never, a certain part of town that's never had these services before that wants to hook up, these are what these charges are for.
And so that's, we have a great example right now with Doyle Street, the construction on it. Because the developer didn't need sanitary sewers to go down Doyle Street, they all go down Artemisia. That's all part of the project development. But when we requested, because the road being reconstructed, to go down and put sewers in to service Doyle Street in the future, because the majority of those are on septic. But when they go to hook up the pipe that we have laid and put in the ground, these are the connection charges that we apply to their frontage and connection.
Dale?
So on that vein, if we take and look at street frontage charge and $75 a meter going to $180 a meter, we provide that service, or can they take and sublet that out and meet our specs by subletting it out, or is it something that we are the only contractor that can do it?
So how that works is, the contractor for developer installed the services with the work that was done on the road. And there is servicing to property line now for all existing lots and anything that had potential for severance in lots that could be created. So all those are at property line. So in order for those residents to connect now, they come along and they have to pay these connection charges, but they're responsible to have a contractor come in and hook up from the property line into the house. And that's all on their dime, and we do an inspection process, but we do not connect into the house.
I'm gonna add a bit to that. Liam said connection, and let's define connection, because if you go through town, where there's a vacant lot, some lots have a connection to property line and some don't. If they don't, these fees would apply. If they do, that's an indication they paid for it when they were putting the service in years ago. But if there's no connection at property line for water and sewers, if there's one not the other, one would apply and the other wouldn't apply, but that's just the way it was done. Some people didn't work with the installation, some did.
additional questions, comments? So, a great number of my questions have been answered, but just to clarify, the combined increase to water and sewer connection charges appears to be potentially up to $1,300. So we have calculated that that is in fact recovering our costs? And are we relying on a study from 2011, is that the case?
So, I can't recall exactly what report number, but just recently, we brought that comparison with the frontage and connection charges through Triton, who had researched the industry and had going rates and provided us information, so we're
Okay.
going off their basis, what's out there in the market.
And the stormwater, I think it's on the same schedule, but no, it's referenced in the staff report, I guess under Schedule E. So add a stormwater service connection charge, that's a new charge, we didn't have that before, is that correct?
That's correct. That's for servicing now that gets installed in these roadways, that takes the stormwater and can possibly, in some cases, have a sump into it, if it has a place to go. So yes, those are new charges that will be reflecting on those services that are in the ground now.
Thank you very much. Any additional questions, comments? Did any other staff want to add any further comments? There's a lot of information in this report, I don't want to overlook anything. Jim?
I just would like to point out, if council recalls, we had brought a report out, accident reporting, and now that the ministry and MTO have reporting outline that we can get that information. I think it's up in the first one. It's called the authorized requester in Schedule A. So when we went to apply, because council had approved going for those requests that we could submit for accidents and various type of data that way, we cannot apply until there's a fee in here for if there's some recoverables that we can go out for on a resident or non-resident basis. So we needed to include this in fees and charges in order to finish our process with getting our application in to be able to get those services.
Thank you very much. Any additional questions, comments? So it is received information and the resolution, anybody wants me to read it again, I will. All those in favor? Carried. That brings us to June 2017 check registers. Be it resolved that council receives staff report finance 2017-04 June 2017 check registers as information, and who would like to move that? Jim? And Christine? And discussion? Christine?
So I have a question, page 3 of 13. Where are we here? Under Triton Engineering Services, we've got a charge for White Road, Plateau North, Plateau East, Plateau West. And I don't see that they are marked as recoverable, and are they? And it's saying there's another White Road subdivision agreement, page 6 of 13. I don't see that they are recoverable either.
Under Triton Engineering, the first four that say White Rose, Plateau North, Plateau West, and Plateau East, those are recoverable, and they should have had an R in front of them. And you said page, what was the other page number you had?
Page 6 of 13,
Just there.
that's Brown and South, miscellaneous matters, that is, I'm curious about that, and then White Road subdivision as well.
White Rose subdivision agreement, yep, there's an R in front of that one already.
I missed it, beg your pardon.
Okay.
And the miscellaneous matters,
It would be different subject matters, those would not be recoverable.
thank you.
Thank you. Any additional questions, comments? Jim?
Under the homecoming thing, check amount, and it says contribute August long weekend events, $1,000.
Liam?
Yes, I believe it's the county that provided $2,000 to the municipality, and then we decided to distribute that 1,000 to the homecoming committee and 1,000 to the Eglon. And then both $2,000 is worth of on his birthday.
Thank you. Any additional questions, comments? So I'm going to, just identify two observations. One is, are we seeing, an increase in, CAF? I don't want to use an indelicate word, but apparently we're seeing more of that?
Tradition kills?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so, I don't recall seeing this volume in these numbers before, and is there anything that we should or need to be doing and, talking to the county as well? I'm actually unclear as to whether or not people can claim at the county level as well.
So there's no claim at the county, they claim here, and then we work, and Liam can maybe say better than that, on the claiming side. I believe we're supported by the province on those costs. But I think the real issue is Minister of Natural Resources, I think, needs to be consulted. Just in the last couple of weeks, there's been a couple sightings of cougars, and so that's a bit concerning. MNR's kind of tight-lipped at why they're out there. Chances are it's to try and minimize the wolf population, but anyway, people should be aware of that. They're a little bit aggressive, so be careful.
Well, I appreciate that, and I'm just sensitive to the, the bigger picture that people are aware and so forth. Barbara, did you want to comment?
Through the chair, I know that we brought this to the delegation at Roma. It might be worth just reminding them or maybe sending, obviously we send in a report because we get reimbursed for the payout, but perhaps a summary somehow through AMO, or I'll do that without for creativity, because we don't have an option to request a delegation now for AMO in Ottawa. That ship has sailed. But if there is an opportunity to mention it at AMO casually, that might be worthwhile.
Thank you, Barbara. Dan?
There is a increase in more sighting of like coyotes, coy dogs, and they're very, very bold. They will not, they're to the point that if you're cutting hay or whatever, like, you can be from here to the door away, like they've just got that aggressive. They're not domesticated, but that, not scared of people and whatever. And I think people need to, when it takes to calves and sheep and everything, that's where we're seeing the kills. I don't want to raise an alarm or whatever, but young kids or small kids or whatever, there's always, who knows what can happen. I'm not trying to be alarmist, but it is reaching a point of critical mass as far as what's going on, as far as some of these predators.
Thank you. Any additional questions, comments? The only other item that I have a question on was on page 7 of 13, Wingham Advance Times, cost for notice of statutory public meetings. Are we advertising our public meetings in Wingham?
I think that's the change to the competitive.
Yeah.
Yes, we're advertising the Mount Forest Confederate, and
Sanamore?
there's a newspaper group.
Okay.
So the check goes to Wingham.
Sanamore, thank you very much. Any additional questions on the report? So Dave, not to leave us, pending on this matter, I'm just going to assume that you'll look into whatever measures we can and should take in relation to this increase of activity.
We'll see what others, if other delegations in the town have with MNR. It's pretty hard to engage with them other than just an employee that doesn't have much pull. That's the problem.
Thank you. Barbara?
To that point, through the chair, I've not been to AMO in the summer. Do they have a panel?
And that would be
Similar to
their option.
Roma?
Yes, they do.
any further discussion?
I'll maybe make a comment with the wing of advance, throw it out there since the newspaper scribes are here. Maybe they should think about expanding their service across Southgate. Put your paper out right to Mount Forest.
Okay, so the report is received with information. All those in favor? Carried. So that brings us to clerk reports. So we have the report relating to video and audio recording of council and committee meetings update. Be resolved that council with staff report CL 2017-026 for information. And we would like to move that. Christine and Barbara, discussion. Yes, Madam Clerk.
So through Mayor and members of council, this is a good news story, I guess you could say. We finally figured out how to get the council committee recordings done properly and upload them to YouTube. So this is just the process that we went through for the past couple months getting there, and they're posted, and after today we'll make it public and start letting people know it's on our website.
Thank you very much. Christine?
So the sound quality has been, it's not what I would hope it to be, and I think I'm about the worst. I pretty much need to eat this microphone in order to be heard. So, is there hope that we can make that better?
I'm going to go to the clerk and then Barbara.
Through our members of council, I think, number one priority, yes, we just need to be aware individually that we have to speak a little bit louder to make sure that we are using our side voices. And secondly, I think, in the meantime, what I will be looking at is working with Vibrator Communications to maybe potentially look at how that integration works between this and our HDMI TVR, something or other that's in that closet over there, and trying to figure that out. But right now, I would suggest projection, and that will solve the problem until we can figure out how to better integrate.
Thank you. Barbara?
Through the chair, and the outside voices is key because the microphone that's in the camera actually can pick up road noise and our admin's keying on the keyboard, and can pick up dialogue without microphones. So I think what Clerk is mentioning is that through that investigation, we may determine that microphones might be interfering with the audio recording of the camera, but in the meantime, we also have to be cognizant of people with hearing impairment, and the microphones are important. Anyway, I'm glad to see that there was no additional cost with relation to getting this done, and I will add that my home laptop has a terrible speaker, obviously, but I went out and bought a $12 plug-in speaker, and it seemed to have helped tremendously. Still a little difficult to hear certain individuals, but it did improve the quality of the audio a lot.
Thank you, Barbara. Any additional questions, comments? Christine?
So, Joanne, what I'm hearing is that you are planning to look into research. What I have sent to Lindsay is just a motion to allow you to do that. And of course, if I haven't worded it just quite right, you're welcome to, suggest. So what I'm suggesting is, be it resolved that council amend the resolution by adding, and that council direct staff to bring a report by September 20th, of course, date is whatever you think, with recommendations and estimated costs for improving the audio quality of the video recording of open meetings.
Okay, so an amendment received for information, and the council direct staff to bring a report by September 20th, 2017, with recommendations and estimated costs for improving audio quality and video recording of open meetings. Barbara?
The amendment is actually the addition after as received for information. The amendment is actually and the council direct full motion. We already have a motion on the table, received for information. I believe if Councillor Gordon could clarify that the amendment is actually to add the second clause.
Okay, so I've got, be it resolved that council receives that, I'll read what I sent. Be it resolved that council amend the resolution by adding. So that is what, adding, adding to the first clause or adding a second clause, that's given me. So,
Barbara?
No, clerk has it.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Sorry, for members of council, I just want to put this in a bit of a precarious situation because now it's written, Freiburger Communication may take advantage of this, thinking that we may need extra work done. So really what's going to happen is it's going to cost them about $200 to come out and press a button on the machine. So we don't need a direction because it can be done easily. Sorry, just to clarify, so by putting this, what you're putting out to the public is recommendations and estimated costs for improving the audio quality. We don't need to improve the audio quality, we just need somebody from Freiburger Communications to press a button on the PVR and close.
Christie?
and that would, improve the quality of the audio.
Order. Okay, so in that point, order, sorry, I don't have a seconder for this motion, and I think we're in violation of having discussion.
So,
Christine?
I am going to just remove that then, if that, and, you know, we'll see, hopefully that button can push things to be improved, if not, we'll.
Order.
I believe I'm speaking to the,
Speak to the
Okay, so to be clear, are you withdrawing that motion?
yes.
Okay. So moved, withdrawn, brings us back to the original motion, which is receive information. Any further discussion on that motion on this report? All those in favor? Carried. Dale?
I'm gonna step aside for a second, just grab a jack. Cool. I'll only be
You want to
minute,
take 5?
I'll only be minute 3.
Okay. Pardon?
Can I quote the next report?
If you're not there. Pardon?
You'll get
I
the
move
jack.
for a quick recess.
Yeah, so let's take a quick recess and we'll all be right back.
Yeah, that would be about right.
In June? What price it's used to living in the swamp.
So that's a,
That's a,
Oh, I see, yeah. No, I don't know, I don't
no,
know.
it's that,
No, you don't know what I mean?
keep them back there, yeah, when they're back here, although, like Dale said, critters get pretty aggressive. It's not uncommon to see them at, 40 bucks, 30 bucks, maybe bills.
Rob would be how far?
16 and a half. Let's say a stone thrower, so. Like, you make those articles for Better Farm, you should know that as being a fraud, what it is. Yeah, you should.
Rely on people like you to
Yeah.
keep me educated.
Newborn calf, that's
Oh, well, yeah, no, some cases, yeah, there's bushes, but you go outside some nights. It's pretty scary.
Oh, it screams.
When they take something down.
Yodeling.
No, they're not yodeling. It sounds like the coyotes.
Okay, so we have all the required visuals in the room. I think we'll carry on.
Take something down. Pretty scary.
So the next item of business is the clerk's report regarding Bill 68, Modernizing Ontario's Municipal Legislation Act 2017, sorry, of amendments. Be it resolved that council receive staff report CL 2017-030 for information. And who would like to move that? Thank you, Jim. And Dale. And discussion. Yes, Madam Clerk?
Through Mayor, members of council, so this is just an update report with regards to the changes that were made as of June 1st of this year, just a continuation of the previous report that was brought to council, I believe, in March 15th, 2017. The highlights are in here, and I've made comments as to where the clerk's office will be working on some policies, procedures, and items that will need following up with regards to the amendments.
Thank you for that. Any additional questions, comments? Barbara?
Through the chair, there was a couple of references to policy number 9 and policy number 10, which I brought these to the clerk's attention. Under the integrity commissioner, what limits are in place to prevent a member from abusing the access for advice and incurring significant expense? And my other question is, under administrative penalties, penalties against whom? I'm not sure I understand that.
So through Mayor, members of council, we thank the province for being very clear on both those items. Nobody from their offices want to be very clear with regard to the implementation of those. Number one, with regard to advice that council members received on behalf of the integrity commissioner. In talking to a lot of clerks within the area and outside, everybody is kind of in the agreement that we should really have a roster of integrity commissioners just for that purpose, that if a member of council chooses to speak to an integrity commissioner and use their advice, should they be lawyers, it's always a good idea to have somebody else as backup to utilize them through the complaint process. There's nothing preventing requesting illegal advice. It'll be up to the integrity commissioner to recuse themselves from the investigation. And with the administrative fees, it's exactly that. We can impose fees on ourselves if we don't follow our own bylaws. And I will wait until somebody else takes the bait on that and copy what they said.
Thank you, Barbara.
So to clarify, under an integrity commissioner, having a roster of integrity commissioners to draw on, is that at the township expense or is that at our individual expense? Because I would think that just to be able to have access to a list of lawyers at my own expense to get that advice, but if it's an expense to the township and I seek advice from one integrity commissioner, but maybe I want a second opinion and now I'm going to go to another
through members of council, the township pays for that. So, one of the things in speaking with a lot of, lawyers who are integrity commissioners, a lot of them have to go by their own sort of,
I couldn't, you said some who paid for it, I didn't,
the township,
okay. I hadn't heard that word for a while. Anyway, okay,
sorry. There's not enough members here for me to turn.
that's all right, no, that's all right. I didn't know whether you said who,
Yep,
but
the
maybe
township.
carry on, I got it.
Yeah, so, one of the things that I would like to speak to Liam about is for future budgets is to include a fund in there, a reserve with regards to integrity commissioner investigations, complaints, and the use of integrity commissioners for members' behalf. So that would be coming forward as well during the budget process, because that's what a lot of, other municipalities are doing, and it's been recommended because as we stand now, we don't have any funds to cover the cost of providing that legal advice or having an integrity commissioner.
Thank you. Barbara?
One further follow-up then. So this will be up to us to set policy that will address possibly the number of times you have available, or if you ask one integrity commissioner but you don't believe them and you go to another one, or you want, a second opinion, that, I think we need to address that in policy, because I can see that it could easily be taken advantage of. I'm not saying by this council, but by any council.
Did you want to comment on that? Go ahead.
Through Mayor, members of council, so yeah, there's a concern. I don't think the number of times a councillor may utilize services or advice, let's say, with regards to an integrity commissioner. I think it's the content of questions, and that is the purpose why most municipalities will use a lawyer as opposed to a consultant. There are a number of consultants out there who cannot provide advice, but they do end up charging on an hourly basis. I think it's just really based on the integrity commissioner and their own kind of code, and realizing, okay, we need to stop this, these are inappropriate questions, and move from there.
Okay. Any additional questions, comments? Jean?
So there are two, items here, hopefully I can get my head around them. Okay, so I'm just going to read on page, 3 of 4, the bottom, the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act, penalties. If a member under consideration is at a meeting, beg your pardon, if a matter under consideration at a meeting is considered where to suspend remuneration of a member as a result of a code of conduct contravention, the member may take part in the discussion, including making submission to council, and may attempt to influence the voting on any question in respect of the matter. However, the member is not permitted to vote. So that is key, because I don't think that's been permitted. We have excluded members, and so that is a change. And I also see that page 2 of 4, right at the very bottom, the last bullet point, staff will be undertaking a procedural bylaw review to ensure compliance with legislative changes and for housekeeping improvement. So it would appear that we are going to continue this review of the procedural bylaw.
Yes.
So through Mayor, members of council, with regards to the procedural bylaw, I've been following this for a number of months, actually in 2014 when the changes were first brought forth, and the discussions happened at ANCTO, AMO, and ROMO with regard to many of these changes. So a lot of these changes have actually been included in our current procedural bylaw, and that I think is perfect timing that we update our procedural bylaw to ensure that the legislative changes are reflected with our procedural bylaw, so those have all been included. With regards to the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act, we can't argue legislation, so in there, things have changed now, and we have to follow the way.
Thank you. Any additional questions, comments? So if I could ask Madam Clerk just to give us an overview of the change wherein the lower tier now has the ability to appoint an alternate representative at the county, which we didn't have before, and totally setting aside the current circumstance with our deputy mayor. So we have that and we are waiting for the county to reciprocate with appropriate policy to address some of the nuts and bolts that come with how that's gonna work, like you appoint an individual, and what information are they gonna receive, and protocols. Can you just maybe give us an overview on that? And in particular, how you see that time frame working out?
Through Mayor, member of council, so this is, interesting in speaking with the members from county council. They understand that they should be taking the lead with regards to developing policy because it's their information that they will be sharing. I mean, at any time, all members of council obviously have access to, open discussion items that are on their agenda. But I think their concern is how are they going to follow the process? When you have an alternate appointed to go to the county, will they have, are they following under the same rules and regulations as a member of town council? Will they have access, and how will they have access to confidential information, confidential agendas, and all those materials associated with closed session agendas? And how will that take place in terms of, will it only take effect if a member is absent for a period of time? Will it take effect if a member at county council can't make it to that meeting, so what kind of time notice is given to that member at the lower tier to be able to attend there? Are they going to have to extend their budget to provide that alternate with iPads, different information or different tools for them to be able to participate? So we're waiting on them to see what their policies and procedure will be. We can certainly appoint them from here. I just don't know what they'll have access to because we don't, it's a little new and nobody's kind of sure where we want to head with it.
So for benefit, do you have any sense of time frame? It doesn't look like we're gonna see much change between now and likely the end of the year, but what's your thought?
My thought is if they haven't developed or looked at developing anything now, and I'm hoping that something could potentially service by September, October. If it hasn't, I don't think it's on many municipalities' radar because of the election next year. I'm hoping that we have something by the end of the year, but
Okay, thank you. Any additional questions, comments on that report? So it is to receive for information. All those in favor? Carried. So that brings us to procedural bylaw review and revised bylaws. Be it resolved that council receive report CL 2017-28 for information, and that council consider the approval of procedural bylaw 2017-100 as attached. And who would move that? Barbara? And Dale? Discussion? Madam Clerk?
Through Mayor, members of council, so last year there was a direction from council, I believe back in March with regards to making housekeeping and clarification amendments in sections not limited but including to definitions, special meeting council, duties of the mayor and chair, committee, and committee of the whole. So what I did was with regards to some comments or questions that were made over the past few months with regards to being able to hold efficient and effective meetings, I've looked at some of the areas that would require some massaging and reviewed other municipalities' procedure bylaws. Those include East Gwillimbury, Grey Highlands, County of Grey, Durham Region, Burlington, Caledon, Guelph, Aramosa, Newmarket, Collingwood, Guelph, and London. So I've kind of taken an amalgamated approach and looked at what other municipalities are doing. In addition, over my decade career in municipal government, also written and updated 5 procedural bylaws during my lifetime. This will be the 6th, so it's I think it's as solid as we can get. My hope is normally procedural bylaws get a full review, including public participation following the election. So it's my hope in 2019 that what we do is we include the public in the full review of the procedural bylaw. And I think the first step is educating the public on how decisions are made. We need to start from the ground to make sure that members of the public are aware of how council works. From that, we would engage the public in going through the procedural bylaw and really working towards a very good public engagement process with regards to what we do.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Questions, comments?
Barbara.
Through the chair to the clerk, I have reiterated some housekeeping changes that either iPad system didn't pick up but under item P, where we're talking about written declarations, will there be a form and should we mention that? And under point of order RR, I still find that point of order should be about procedure, and the additional items A, B, and D have to do with comfort, and those are specifically related to point of privilege. And as far as WW recorded votes, I still prefer the random selection, and we also mentioned random order in 25.10 for recorded votes, so I think we should be consistent.
Go ahead.
So through Mayor and members of council, I'll start with the first one, which would be the conflict of interest. I am in the process of developing a form. It will be included. It just wasn't prepared for this submission. It'll be an addition. It'll be part of procedural bylaw eventually once I complete it. But I will hopefully have something ready for August 2nd. And it'll be just a very simple form to indicate the report, item on the agenda, who is declaring the interest, and the general nature of it, and the signature of it. What we do with that eventually is we'll have a registry online, so we'll have to develop some space on our website to include all that information online as well. The point of order, I can certainly remove that. It's just found in other places. Thought I had it for clarity. If council wishes to remove it, I'm fine with removing it. Random selection. So looking at some of the other procedural bylaws, the mayor, deputy mayor always seem to vote first or last because they normally don't vote on motions or resolutions unless there's a tie. So that's the only reason, and then those in between would be random. So if council wishes to go back to random, again, that's fine. It's just a new process, and found other places that seem to work for them.
Thank you, Brad. Any additional questions, comments, Christine?
I'm looking at section 14.3, and it's, reading, beg your pardon, and I'm not sure how to say this, but I am going to say this delicately if I can. The mayor, and beg your pardon, the mayor chair is always just, I'm just reading your comments, is always allowed to discuss an item as long as they remove themselves from chair. What you're suggesting is that the mayor cannot enter into discussion or debate. And you've cited Burlington, Caledon, and municipalities in Grey County. I've spoken to 2 Caledon councillors, one who has been on council for more than 1 term, and the Burlington councillor was also on for more than 1 term. Their mayor asks questions and enters into discussion, without a doubt. And the other item, there's an item which doesn't seem to have a lot of force, and I'm not even sure that I should even bring it up. It says that members should avoid comments intended to be statements or attestations. I am here to speak for the public. And although this doesn't carry any weight, I see, because I'm to avoid it, should, it's not like you can't. But if we were to say you can't make comments or attestations, then I believe that that is taking away freedom of speech, and I am here to speak for the public. I am here to make statements for the public. I am to bring their voice forward. should avoid comments intended to be statements or attestations. Okay, so I believe that encroaching on freedom of speech and my job as a counselor to speak for people. And, oops, wrong one. And the bill, sorry, I can't type and talk at the same time. The idea that the mayor would not be allowed to enter into discussion or debate is not followed in Burlington, Caledon, or in some of the municipalities, any of the municipalities in Grey County that I spoke with.
Go ahead.
Okay, Mayor, members, council, will start with the, beginning with regards to Councillor Gordon's comments regarding Burlington or Caledon. So I worked in both those municipalities, and what they're referring to are committee meetings. They're not referring to council. So during council meetings, if Mayor Goldring or Mayor Thompson wishes to discuss something, they remove themselves from the chair. The only time when they discuss something while they're in the chair is to summarize comments with regards to members of council. With regards to comments made about the mayor not being able to enter into debate, that's not at all what this procedure bylaw indicates. It indicates that the chair shall vacate the chair in order to move or second a motion and shall resume the chair following the vote on the matter. I have it in writing from every single area clerk within Grey County that this is what they follow, that none of their mayors or chairs don't follow this procedure. So I'd love to know who you spoke to so I could clarify with them.
I'm happy to share that. Great.
Any additional questions, comments? Barbara?
So to that point, while the mayor's role is to serve as chair, and while in the chair, their main role is to ensure an efficient meeting, to make sure that all members have adequate and equal representation should they choose to speak. And it's not that the mayor can't enter into discussion, it's that whoever is in the chair isn't supposed to.
Thank you. Okay, so before I go to Christine, I'm just going to comment. So a few things have been covered. I too have a concern about the interpretation of some points. And the person I talked about this, so point 22.6, which is the clause that's before us right now, my question is, what is the interpretation of that? And that's just one point. And it's one thing to have words on the page, but it's another for us to agree on how we're going to interpret them. So I have a concern that with the timing of these changes and so forth, we don't have that opportunity to agree on what the interpretation is. And to say we should avoid comments, so that applies to all members, and I'm the chair, and I don't know what to do with that, quite frankly. So I have a concern on that point, and then I also want to address how, we have a proposed process where if we don't get through an agenda, that we're automatically going to carry forward to the next day. And my concern is that, one, notice to the public, like they're not going to know, is there a meeting, is there not a meeting? I believe there's reference to the July and August. Essentially what it boils down to in July and August is that we could go 2 months without any meeting that takes place in the evening, and then that's not working toward allowing the public to participate in the meetings. The addendum agenda seems to be a mechanism to not only allow but anticipate changes to the agenda once we've published it, which my understanding and interpretation is generally frowned upon. So I have a number of concerns, and I also believe that, and this is my opinion, that this is this document it carries significant weight, and although it's not a contractual agreement, and the clerk and I had this discussion, I do believe that this should have legal review to make sure that it is in fact in accordance with applicable legislation, and that all of these clauses and so forth are in fact enforceable. So it's a very important document, and I appreciate that it should receive full review at the outset of any new council. I'm fully supportive of that, but here we are, and I'm uncomfortable with some of the elements in here, and I'm not going to get into all of them, but I would challenge council to consider, are we in fact going to interpret all of this in the same manner? Because if we're not, then it's going to lead to more debate when we need to be talking about business. So that said, go ahead.
Right, through Mayor and members of council, I'll just, on the on-site, if there is any clarification that is required, mentioned at the beginning of the bylaw, is that referred to Robert's Rules of Order. Robert's Rules of Order is a massive, little book that outlines any further clarification. That's something that if we were to amend our procedure bylaw to include everything, we have, about 1,000 pages. So whenever there's clarification that's required, we always refer to Robert's Rules of Order. With regards to the process on automatically carrying over items to a Thursday agenda, when we have items that are being carried over, generally they have been notices of motion, bylaws that haven't been moved up to deal with at the following other report or closed items. We already provide notice to members of the public. Members of the public also know that is included in our procedural bylaw, and it is our job as staff and as council to ensure that everything is completed in a timely manner. So what we are doing is just effectively ensuring that we are completing everything in a timely manner, and carrying over to Thursday ensures that the business of the township is carried throughout effectively. Normally what has been done before is a separate agenda was generated and posted, which takes up a full day of staff time to make sure that another agenda is created, posted, send out information when we've already done that through the posting of the first agenda. With regard to July and August meetings, there's actually nothing stopping council to call a special meeting if it is deemed necessary that something should be discussed, or if something additional should be making it to the agenda. With regards to an addendum, addendums are widely used throughout other municipalities. We currently follow an addendum process. I could say an example would be republishing today's agenda a number of times for it to include and remove items. What an actual addendum agenda does is clearly outline to the public what has been changed, what has been removed, and how it's been removed. So the addendum agenda is not to introduce new items to council without them knowing. It's whether or not we require supplemental information to make a decision at the council meeting. Now, reviewing other procedural bylaws, many municipalities actually only provide 24 hours notice. So we're kind of doing our due diligence to require 48 hours notice with regards to agendas and addendum agendas. We're doing our best to ensure that all the material is in for Monday, which gives us more than 24 hours notice.
Thank you. Christine?
So I would like council to know that a Thursday carryover from September to June will exclude me from the meeting consistently, and I don't think that is a good idea. The third Wednesday has typically been set aside and typically isn't a full day, and I believe that would be a better option for carryover. I have a suggestion. I have an amendment, is what I have. Be it resolved that council amend the second clause adding, so the first clause is, there you go, following qualified legal review satisfactory to council. So the whole, motion would read, if you would like that. Can you follow right there? Thank you. Thank you. Boy, my voice is going. Council receive report CL 217-28 information, and that council consider the approval of the procedural 2017-100 as attached. Oh, where did it go?
That's what we have.
Yeah. And, sorry, following, there's what I'm looking for. Following qualified legal review satisfactory to council. So, that council consider approval of procedural bylaw, follow qualified legal review satisfactory to council.
Okay, so Christine is moving that amendment, and would anybody like to second that? Okay, so seconded by Barbara. Discussion. The clerk, and then Dale.
So I just want clarification. If the motion goes through as amended here, we're going to take it to legal review. If it's lost, we've turned it all into one motion. Have we lost the first part, that then we can't take and deal with the first part that was presented?
I'll let the clerk address that, go ahead.
No, so if you're gonna vote on the motion first, if that amendment fails, we go back to the original motion.
Okay, so we're voting on the amendment, and then if it approves, then we're, okay.
The clerk, and then I'm gonna go to Barbara.
Sorry, just to, I have a question to pose to council. Have any other procedural bylaws received legal review?
I'm just gonna comment and say I am unaware, and I don't know if anybody else in the room can comment.
So what will happen during a legal review is the lawyer will come back and say, under the municipal act, the council can pass any procedural bylaw they want. So we'd be not using taxpayers' dollars efficiently to receive information that we've already discussed.
Barbara?
Through the chair, I would like clarification as to qualified legal review satisfactory to council. Who determines qualified, and when, if this passes and the legal review comes back and members of council are not satisfied that they didn't get the answer they want, does this set us up to fail? So we have a lawyer of record with municipal act experience, Robert's Rule, whatever. Qualified legal review satisfactory to council. I just see that as an open-ended, never satisfied, and it comes back, well, I want a second opinion. So, because it's just too open-ended.
Dale?
So the amendment is presented here, I will not be supporting because we as a municipality in the province of Ontario, as has been stated, have been given the privilege to take and develop our procedural bylaws. We have Robert's Rules of Order, and it has been to take and help sort through some of this stuff if there is an issue, and to take it to a lawyer, they wouldn't be, we're wasting our time with what the province has allowed us to do, and I think that's, we need to take responsibility of that, and to take and see if we can create another lawyer's bill. I approved the original motion, but the amendment I do not approve it.
Any additional questions, comments? Christine?
My intention in this motion was to make sure that the lawyer had experience with the municipal act and sufficient. I am quite certain that I could remove the satisfactory to council. I am concerned that we are taking away the right and even the responsibility My discussions with the other councillors from Burlington and Caledon, I think we're pretty specific on that. The mayor has certain responsibilities, and they are to, and I'm not gonna find them for now, but she is to, bring information to council. Her job is to ask questions, to make sure that there's transparency and proper process, and that is just one part that I found in the municipal act, and I believe there are more. So I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you very much.
Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. I have the municipal act in front of me, and section 225 indicates the head of council and their role, and it goes on to section 227, which starts with administration of officers, employees' role. So just to clarify for Councillor Gordon, we're not removing the chair and mayor's right to discuss, move, second anything. It's just a little bit difficult to act as a two-hatter when you're in the role of the chair or mayor and entering into debate and discussion and providing their viewpoints while in the chair. It's contradictory to the statement of the municipal act with regards to the role of the chair is to remain neutral. So it's a little bit difficult for someone to remain neutral when they take a stand. That's a little bit, bit of an oxymoron and a bit of a opposition to the original thing. So just to clarify, it's not removing her and not limiting her ability to, or limiting the chair to speak. It's just giving somebody else the opportunity to preside over the meeting while they do so.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Barbara?
Through the chair, and for the record, this council allows a lot of latitude to whomever is in the chair. Specifically, this particular point, the chair spoke of her opinion about concerns, about proposed processes, and that was technically, the chair should have removed herself in order to bring those opinions forward. So, it's not stifling the mayor, it's ensuring the chair presides over the meeting. So.
Okay, additional questions, comments? We have a motion.
Call the question.
Okay. So, Councillor Frew has called the question. So, all those in favor of calling the question? And can I have a recorded vote on that, please?
So a recorded vote was requested by Mayor Fosdick with regards to calling the question on the amendment for
On call the question.
I'm calling the question for the amendment. Councillor Pallister?
Yes?
Deputy Mayor Jack is absent. Councillor Gordon?
No?
Councillor Dubreen? Yes. Councillor Frew?
Yes.
Councillor Woodbury is absent, and Mayor Fosdick?
No.
So the vote of 3 to 2, the motion is carried.
Thank you. So then we have a vote on the original motion as amended. I'm sorry, okay, so the amendment. So the original motion with the amendment that reads, the council consider the approval of procedural bylaw 2017-100 as attached following qualified legal review satisfactory to council. So, can you,
So that's the amendment that we're voting on right now.
correct? Does that answer your question? Okay. And can you record the vote for us, please?
So a recorded vote was requested by Mayor Fosdick with regards to the amendment to the procedural bylaw, stating that we add qualified legal review satisfactory to council. Councillor Woodbury is absent. Councillor Pallister?
No?
Councillor Gordon? Yes. Mayor Fosdick?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Jack is absent. Councillor Frew?
No.
Councillor Dubreen?
No.
So of 2 to 3, the motion is lost.
right back to the original motion, receive as information, and the council consider approval of the procedural bylaw 2017-100 as attached. So, the call to question was on the amendment. So is there any further discussion on the main original motion? Christine?
I would just like to record the vote when we get there, thank you.
Seeing no hands, I think we're there. Thank you, Ray.
A recorded vote was called with regards to, Clerk's Report 2017-028, procedural bylaw review.
Barbara?
I guess it's too late now. Sorry.
With regard to, receiving and filing and consider approval of the procedure bylaw 2017-100, Councillor Pallister,
Yes?
Councillor Crew,
Yes.
Councillor Woodbury added, Councillor Gordon,
No.
Councillor Dobreen,
Yes.
yes. Mayor Ellsworth, that only counts once.
No.
Deputy Mayor Jack is absent, so a vote of 3 to 2, the motion is carried. I'm just going to add, maybe Councillor Dobreen was worried about something being amended, and we can discuss that at the time of the bylaw. I've made some changes and amendments that we can.
Point of
Barbara?
order. Should I move to reconsider now so that I can make the amendment?
We make the amendment at the time of the bylaw, and we can just say as amended, because it's the points that I've crossed out and agreed with, it was yourself, with regards to point of order, there was something else with regard.
Providing council agrees.
Right, right. And then the other part was with regards to the statements and assertions. We can remove that if that's the council's wishes. So those are the two that I've made.
So, you have a question too, Dale, but go ahead.
To Councillor Dobreen, like I'm lost here now, like, of what you meant by what you said, as far as amending something, or I'm lost here.
Barbara?
So earlier in the discussion, I mentioned the point of order versus point of privilege, and I also mentioned the form, and I mentioned a couple other things. And I was going to make an amendment because it needs council agreement to make the change to the procedural bylaw. It's been presented one way, and I'm proposing that a couple of items be amended. And Councillor Gordon's point about assertions and statements, we often make statements. It could be good and they could be not good. So those types of things, what the clerk is saying is rather than move to reconsider and go to a two-third vote, we can address the amendments that I didn't get to make because of all the other calling and, we can do that at the bylaw. We could move up the bylaw and we can make those changes.
Dale?
I would suggest that there's going to be any more changes made to what we've had in front of us, that there, it be in writing or whatever, that we can see it at a later date or whatever when it comes to the bylaw stage, than to take and prove something that hasn't been wrote down. That would be my preference. I'm not making a motion, but I would like to see it in writing if we're going to change anything more, than to just verbally do it and move on.
The clerk and then Barbara, I think.
Through Mayor, members of council, nothing would technically be changed, it would just be removing 2 items.
Barbara, do you want to?
I was just going to clarify that I agree that any decision to revise what's been presented in front of us needs to be a decision of council.
So, I'm gonna venture to say that I'm still not 100% clear myself. So, I've expressed that, there's a number of changes to this. The last time we did this was committee of the whole. We're really not taking a great deal of time to consider the items that have been brought forward, never mind the ones that haven't. And so, so I'm clear what to expect from what the clerk envisions, want specific motions today before we pass this bylaw. Otherwise, we're gonna pass this bylaw, and any other comments, it'll be too late after today. Is that correct?
Premier, members of council, nothing's ever too late. What this is, what we just passed is council consider the approval of the procedural bylaws as attached. If Councillor Green would like to continue this discussion and not reconsider, we can introduce kind of a supplementary motion where we can add the two or the couple of items that should be removed or whatever we can. That's not a problem. I think council has had this in their hands for a little while now, and there's nothing really that's changed other than adding some definitions. The two things that have really changed is following best practices with other municipalities and having 2 summer meetings as opposed to 4 summer meetings. And we're moving up the deadline to publish an agenda from Friday at 4 o'clock to Thursday at 2 o'clock. So those are the very big items that we are looking at. And the purpose of moving the agenda item or the agenda publishing up is to ensure that we're following, we're giving council and the public an extra day to review the documents. And the summer meetings is we're just following what other municipalities are doing and giving staff enough time to provide or prepare for the budget deliberations in September.
Okay, thank you for those comments. I'm not gonna repeat anything. So we have so we've passed this motion. Moving on. Okay. That brings us to Public Works. So we have a report on the Bridge S38 Replacement Tender Award. Be resolved that staff report PW 2017-056 be received for information, and that council approves awarding Moorfield Excavating Limited the Bridge S38 Replacement Tender at an estimated cost of $238,000 plus HST, and that council approves the reallocation of 2017 capital budget funds in the Dundalk project to the Bridge S38 Replacement Project in the amount of $33,000 to cover the budget shortfall. And who would like to move that? Jim? Dale? Discussion? Dale?
I could have talked to you a bit beforehand, Jim, but slipped my mind. This here bridge that we're talking of doing is also the one in relation to where the municipal drain is going to be going through at a later date. And the engineer on the bridge was
It's Burnside.
yeah, okay, and the other engineer and that's the same that's gonna be on the ditch.
Correct.
So you feel comfortable that the grades of, when we meet the ditch and we meet the bridge, that we're gonna be,
It's their design. That's
so
all.
that, and so we're good that if there's troubles with grade when we get to that point, we've got some leeway to go back on to, it's nothing to do with the bridge, but the grade, that we can hold Burnside. It can be achieved, I know, but there's also a chance of a mathematical error here, really. But you feel comfortable with what we're trying to achieve here?
Yes, for sure.
Okay, nice.
Thank you, Jim. Questions, comments? Christie?
So I understand budget, you know, you don't have the crystal ball completely. It seems like a large, an extra large percentage, it's more than a 10% increase, I believe, in what was budgeted. Do we get help from Burnside, or, because they're the ones that put the tenders out, my understanding, right?
Correct, they were the design engineer for this tender, yes.
So they put the tender out, and then it's coming back at 33,000 more. Like, did they help us come up with that original budget number?
Yes, they provided a number in our OSHA reports, and we had used that chart number. We have reduced the scope of the work, so actually all the tenders came in at higher cost than that, but there was scope reduction of guardrail, the budgeted for next year, and the scope of the paving reduced, and a change with material for the blocks for the outside of the structure walls. So in fact, this came in a lot higher than 33,000.
Okay, so I don't know anywhere near about his process, Jim, and I am concerned that we overshot or undershot, and Medicare was helping us do that. So it is concerning to me. That's a lot of money to be out when they are the experts, when they help us do this.
It's a statement, not a question. You're welcome to comment or.
We'll be further reviewing as what we paid recently for bridges going forward, and what the estimates are in the ocean reports, and see if there's been change and how drastically they are. But these are the way bids were presented to us.
Thank you. Any additional questions, comments? Dave?
I'll just make a statement. Part of the reason when we take and go through budgets and everything, this is a perfect example of when it's nice to have our budget approved and things done a little bit sooner than we're achieving them. But when we put tenders in, we don't take and come out in a tender at this time of year. Any good contractor has all kinds of work at this time of year, and with a season like what we've had this year, new work is not really something that they want to take on because they're all behind, because the weather has put us in a situation, put them in a situation where they can't keep caught up on their work. So when we take and look at this and see the range in the tenders for the same type of work from the bottom to the high, and see over a $200,000 spread, there was one that threw in a fairly high bid, and if they got the work, it was going to be a gravy run and they'd make it happen. But this is just another example that it pays to have our budget, especially when it comes to roadside construction or anything to do with roads department, done earlier, that we're out of the box, putting tenders out ahead of time rather than in a season, whether it comes to paving, and which we just won't let one out because this is the situation you get yourself into. And then I have one other question that relates to this project. When we get our work back from Burnsides and whatever, will the Burnside bill for this bridge be itemized to bridge number S38, the engineering component of it?
Yes.
Okay, I will be watching.
Dale? Barbara?
I'll maybe just add to that is it'll be referring to that project number. That will be, everything will be charged to that project number by Burnside, so if you want to track it that way.
So bridge S38.
Well, or the project number 3,40692-000. It's in their letter.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
I just would like to, anyway, that's all I have. Just the ditch part of this component, upstream or downstream, will have no correlation between any of the costs with this at all.
No, the road crossing will be the whole responsibility of the township,
Yeah.
not put on the participants of the bid benefit.
Thanks.
Thank you. Did you have any other, Barbara? Go ahead.
Through the chair, so with regard to budget shortfalls, since we're doing our budget estimates in the fall, and you're getting estimates from Burnside, 6, 8, 10 months prior, there really is, there's nothing to control the industry and increase in gravel, the increase in cost, increase, things go up. And does Burnside base their estimates on the 2016 or prior year 2015 rates? I mean, they don't have a crystal ball, obviously, but they are experts in the field. we can do differently to be more in tune with current trends and pricing to get a better price, or is it just sometimes the contractors upcharge?
Jim?
I think a bit of both, like Dale alluded to, the factors and when we're tendering and who's got work and who doesn't have work and who could cash in better if they juggle their workloads. And, yes, we'll have some more discussions with Burnside to try and sharpen the pencils, but, yeah, we've got to go forward. That's all we can do.
Thank you. So, just a quick question. I know that we talked about reviewing the purchasing policy. Is there a time frame within which we can expect to be reviewing that? 'Cause I think a lot of that eventually might.
Yeah. Through the chair, to comment on that, that's priority. Unfortunately, there's other priorities that are ahead of it. And we hope to get at that this fall, but it just keeps getting pushed back because of other task requirements and so on. Maybe one thing I'll comment on this is, remember when we do get bids in at the lower budget, we don't give back money to the engineers. So a lot of this, I think, is they do on historical, bids that they see coming in for those comparable spans. But I think, what we got hit with is exactly what Dale had, a little bit late, maybe because of process and anyway, maybe what we need to do is push to get this kind of reports back to us sooner.
Thanks, Dave. And I'm just gonna add that, I've seen more than once at the county level where if we know that the staff knows that this is a seasonal thing, they wanna get a jump on tenders and so forth, even before the budget approval process, that they would bring a report saying, you know what, we don't wanna wait, so give us the permission to go ahead. So there's always that option as well.
As long as all the stars and background work line up, that's the
Yeah,
problem.
I
But that's
gotcha.
that's a very good point.
Okay. So, any further discussion on the report? All those in favor? Carried. So now we have Public Works Department report. Be it resolved that Councillor to staff report PW 2017-57 for information. Who would like to start? Thank you, Beth. And Christine, discussion? I only have one, Jim. You talked about, the situation with well V4. Provide whatever comment you feel is relevant. I guess the questions that come to mind are, was well V4 in fact out of commission for any period of time, and if so, for how long? And it sounds like maybe you have an update now that you didn't when you wrote the report? Go ahead.
Correct, for our update, just to go backwards a little bit, that weekend of around June 24th or so, when the operators were in to do their rounds, whenever they started the well pump, it sounded like a shotgun going off. We have that recorded. So our first thoughts was that we were getting water hammer, that there was water being lost in pipe somehow, a check valve was failed. So starting first of the week, we investigated with Triton, and the procedure was to pull pipe up and check the pump, and we found a small hole right where the pipe connects onto the pump, and we were satisfied with that being the cause of the noise. And procedure is when you pull something, a pump like that, to camera the well again. And when we cammered the well, we noticed a couple fractures, and when this well was drilled, there was a fracture seen when it was built. And we're just wondering now, we haven't seen any quality issues, but with seeing that and a couple other fractures, we need to go into a little bit more in-depth testing to determine that we are not, either the water's coming into the casing or the water's being sucked out. So there are a number of tests, and they were supposed to actually happen today because, these are, some, highly, different requirements of, tools and, mechanisms to get this testing, so that testing is actually happening tomorrow, which will be cement, bond log to the casing, how that looks, geophysics, static flow profiling, alignment of the casing, and, packer testing. So we hope to have that report turned around within a week with, what they'll find out tomorrow. And then, long story short is, again, this fracture was there when we created the well, so, there's some options, whether, and I will bring a full report when we know more of what's, going on here, but again, because of deadlines, you can't get every word in here, but, the outcomes will be possibly that, we will raise the, pump from where the level it's at now, a little bit higher in the casing, that it can't be influenced by the fracture, as much. And, the other alternative would be to, because it's a 10-inch, well casing, to, put a 6-inch casing down with the pump that we have, can fit inside still, and then fill around it in the, annular seal with bentonite to, stop the fracture from influencing. But, again, this well's been in production since 2004, 2005, it was drilled in 2002. All those tests, results that are indicating an influence from fractures. So, we're just trying to make sure we're on the right side of everything and doing our due diligence. And, if we have to put the, liner in, we're probably down for about a month, 5 weeks. It'll take 2 weeks just to put the liner in. But we've been down, we ran it occasionally just to keep our testing protocols through until, within last week, I don't believe we had raw water testing for well 4. The ministry's, been notified by email just that, what our situation is, but, it's, not standard protocol, but, there's no concerns right now of, that we're in any harm or anything while free is working well, and, we'll await the outcomes of the, testing reports here.
Thank you very much. Any additional questions, comments? Dale?
Just to kind of show you how out of touch I'm getting with technology, or else I had a brain dead moment. Waste diversion and road resource management, I see these initials coming soon at an APP store near you. And then watch for the recycle coach Southgate ADP, so I had asked Lindsay what all that meant. But anyway, apparently it's an app, and then the recycle coach, I was thinking of a box, but anyway, apparently that's how. Anyway, thanks for bringing me up to speed.
So just to recap your comments, Jim, the impact on residents, really none at this stage?
No impact, no.
Okay.
We've got our, reservoir all free, and, we're still capable of providing, the services. Obviously, in our water billing, what we normally do in June, they're sent out, we have our conservation notice on back to that for, watering days, and with this season the way it's been, there hasn't been any non-watering issues. So, anyhow, if by chance it prolongs on, we may bring in some measures if, this drags out to a couple months and it gets dry or something, but no concerns at this point in time. The usage is staying normal. Generally a Sunday's higher consumption day because more people are washing cars and doing whatever, but, everything's normal.
Thank you very much. Any additional questions, comments? The report is received for information. All those in favor? Oh, sorry. You're in favor?
No.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to, bring to your attention the, award that, one of our operators
Oh,
is
yeah.
receiving,
Thank you for
John
that.
Hudson. This is pretty, high league stuff for, the province of Ontario to be 2 years at road school and be the highest average. That that's quite a compliment, and, we're very proud of him. And, we'll be seeing him, get his award next year in February at the OGRA.
Thank you very much for making sure that's mentioned. Barbara?
And I would just like to pass on, I'm not gonna wait till members' privilege, but I had the opportunity to speak with someone yesterday who asked me to pass on to our Public Works Department that this person does side road, ditch trimming. You go around and cut grass, and he does it for multiple municipalities. And he made a comment that Southgate has the best roads of all the 5 municipalities he works for. So, congratulations to our roads group.
Thank you, Barbara. Any additional questions, comments? All those in favor? Carried. So that brings us to the purchase and sale agreement, Waldemar and Diane Litz. Resolved by the council with regard for EDO 2017-009 as information, and the council approve the purchase and sale agreement from Waldemar and Diane Litz, and the council consider approval of State Bylaw 2017-089 to execute this purchase and sale agreement with Waldemar and Diane Litz. And who would have moved that? Dale? And Jim? Discussion? Christine?
So, I am concerned that we haven't properly justified the sale price. Until this report, we haven't even, until this agenda, and we haven't even looked at the report from EDO. We really don't have pricing comparisons, and especially in light of what went on in Toronto a couple weeks ago, where land was potentially being bought at too high a price, and an appraisal is just a given. If it was up to me and it was my land to sell, it would be different. But for me, because I'm a counselor, I can't just go and sell without proper research. And so I am concerned about the price and just going forward with this without actually documenting, okay, so this is what the lawyer reviewed the sale agreement for starters, and this is what we're basing this purchase price on. We have an expert that said this is what it's worth.
Thank you, Christine. Any additional questions, comments? Christine?
So, that being said, whoops, I would like to make a motion on, my technical difficulties here, things are all over the place. I bet Lindsay's gonna have it before I do. That council approve, I'd like to amend the second clause to read that council approve the purchase and sale agreement from Waldemar Gus and Diane Litz, subject to a legal review. Oh dear, okay, sorry, go ahead. Subject to a legal review and a property appraisal by a certified appraisal.
Okay. So, that's good, we've got that correct. Be it resolved that the second clause be amended to read, the council approves the purchase and sale agreement for Waldemar and Diane Litz, subject to a legal review and a property appraisal by a certified appraiser. Okay, moved. Anybody want a second? So I will second, and then Bill has a comment, I believe Barbara. Dale?
This changes the intent of the original motion. agreement. What you have with the amendment that you're taking to add here is to say you get subject to a legal review and a property appraisal by a certified appraiser. So that's taken and changed the terms and conditions of the sale agreement that we have here is presented to us in front of us at this time. Because we had determined what we had as a council, a sale price, we put together an agreement, we've had legal contact. I changed the intent of the original motion because you put yourself in a completely different position here than what the offer to purchase first was delivered to the purchaser of. So it's changed the intent of the original motion.
Dale Farber?
Point of clarification, the chair not have to rule on Councillor Pallister's objection, calling the motion vehement and improper, or contrary, or what?
Dale, is it your intent to deem it out of order?
Yeah, I will deem it out of order. I move the original motion, but I do not. The amendment changes the intent of the original motion drastically because it's a complete different proposal than what was given to the purchaser with the original agreement that we gave. So it's out of order.
Okay, so Dale is ruling that this is out of order. And so I believe procedurally that Dale makes that statement, and then it comes back to me to say I agree or disagree. And I disagree with Dale's interpretation that this is out of order. And based on that, then council can determine that they want to challenge that, right? So Dale says out of order, I respectfully disagree. And so now, would the question go back to Dale to see if he wants to? I'm a little unclear on who picks up the ball to take vote.
Mayor, members of council, so at this point, the chair has ruled, it can either continue the discussion or somebody could challenge the chair.
Barbara?
So I'm not going to challenge at this point in time because the chair has made a ruling, but I would point out that by changing the second clause to require a legal review, which has already been conducted, and a property appraisal by a certified appraiser, we have gone back to the offer and accepted it in principle based on council's approval. To go, gee, I sold my house for, I had it listed for $200,000, and you offered me $210,000, but now I think I want an appraisal, and I might not sell it to you for that now. The other part of that, though, regardless of whether we get a certified appraiser, which by changing the second clause and not removing the third clause, which is to consider approval of the bylaw, we can't fulfill the original motion, and therefore, I would have to agree with Councillor Pallister that it is contrary because the amendment doesn't